This video presents a brief talk on the Sui Dynasty of medieval China. Since the fall of the great Han Dynasty in 220 CE, China had been divided. The Sui Dynasty is most famous for unifying China under one rule after the period of disunion. The Sui Dynasty only ruled for a short time, from 581 to 618. It was then replaced by the Tang Dynasty. The Sui Dynasty, 581 to 618 CE. Yang Qian, who became the Emperor Wen Ti, the first ruler of the Sui, had enjoyed a distinguished military career before he came to the throne, having served under the famous minister of the Western Wei, Yu Wen Tai. Like most of those who founded dynasties, he was a member of an old aristocratic family and traced his descent both from the native Chinese gentry and the Xianpi tribal chiefs who had migrated from the northeast some 3 centuries previously. Yang Qian's conquest in 589 of the last rival Chinese state of Chen did not bring lasting peace to the empire. He at first attempted to conciliate the independent-minded southerners, but his destruction of their old capital at Qiankang sparked rumors that the entire population was to be deported to the northwest. Scattered revolts broke out, and the emperor reverted to his natural authoritarian style, ordering generals Yang Zu and Pei Chu to bring the south to heel, a task which they carried out with great ruthlessness. Furthermore, the loyalty of the people was soon being strained by the enormous public works, including the Grand Canal Complex and the rebuilding of thousands of miles of walls in the northwest, which were undertaken using forced labor. Fear of further trouble led to a decree in 590, effectively placing the military outside the capital under the control of local civil officials, and in 595 to the confiscation of privately held weapons. In 598, there was even an attempt to ban all boats over a certain length from the rivers of the south, in order to prevent them from being used to aid rebellion. In foreign relations, just as at home, Wen Ti was guided by a desire to emulate the achievements of the Han. Like their predecessors, the Sui were faced with a threat from the northern steppes, where the Tu-Chue, or Eastern Turks, heirs to part of the Turkish Empire, which in the mid-6th century had briefly controlled the whole of Central Asia, remained powerful despite serious internal divisions. Wen Ti's policy was to exploit these divisions by supporting rival Turkish factions, and in this way he managed to stave off several potential crises without resorting to all-out warfare. In the south, Chiao Chou, in what is now northern Vietnam, had escaped from Chinese control in the 4th century. An army under Liu Fang reconquered it in 602, but an attempt to advance further south into the kingdom of Champa was less successful. Liu sacked the Champa capital and returned with some valuable loot, but his army was severely weakened by disease on its way home. The court soon lost its enthusiasm for such expeditions, and Champa retained its independence. Yang Ti, who succeeded to the Sui throne in 604, was even more ambitious. In 607, he led an army to the far west, receiving the submission of the Tu Chui, as well as the kings of Turfan and Hami, while his general, Yu Wenshu, inflicted a major defeat on the Tu Hun in the Tarim Basin. At the Tu Chui court, however, the triumphant emperor made a disturbing discovery. An ambassador from Koguryo, an independent kingdom in northern Korea, was already in residence. Alarmed at the thought of an alliance between these two potentially hostile powers, Yang Ti sent emissaries to Koguryo to demand its formal submission. When this was refused, he began to prepare for war. This was to be one of the most ambitious campaigns ever undertaken by a Chinese dynasty, using all the resources of a newly unified and self-confident empire. First, a northern branch of the Grand Canal had to be completed to enable supplies to be brought to the frontier from as far away as the Yangtze Valley. Then a huge army, said to number 1 million men, was raised. All this, however, was to prove too much for a state not yet fully recovered from centuries of disunity and civil strife. It was not until 612 that the emperor was able to lead his army across the Liao River on a specially built bridge and into Koguryo. The Koreans, however, were aware of the defensive advantages provided by their terrain and climate and made the most of them. On the far side of the Liao, the Chinese found forested mountains, the few routes through which were blocked by a chain of fortified towns. These resisted throughout the summer, and in the autumn, rains forced Yang Ti to retreat. In 613 he tried again, but a revolt at home obliged him to detach troops to suppress it, and his weakened army was no more successful than it had been the previous year. The following summer he pushed across the Liao yet again, bypassing the fortresses and reaching the capital city of Pyongyang, but few supplies could get through, and the troops began to desert in droves. The king of Koguryo offered to submit, and the Sui were glad of an excuse to withdraw, but the Korean ruler failed to turn up at court on the agreed date. A furious Yang Ti proposed to attack a fourth time, but the enormous cost of keeping the army in the field for so long had strained the empire beyond endurance. The emperor returned home to a country seething with rebellion. It was too late for repression, as by now the nobility, as well as the common people, were disaffected. In 617, two of his grandsons were set up as rival emperors, and in the following year, Yang Ti was assassinated. Thank you for watching. Please like and share this video, hit the subscribe button, and feel free to ask me any question in the comments section below. Due to the sacred nature of these videos, I would prefer to keep them ad-free. Please help me to do that by clicking the Patreon link in the description box below and make a donation to this channel. Every dollar counts. Thank you for your support.